So the topic that I'd like to talk to you about today is this notion of preparedness. Underlying everything that we're doing for DORA and operational resilience in the financial services industry is this assumption that disruption is going to occur at some stage. We don't know exactly when, we don't know exactly what, we don't know exactly the impact. But there is a requirement on everybody in the industry to be able to respond and recover no matter what. And staying within risk appetite, staying within impact tolerances and avoiding causing intolerable customer harm. That's a notion that's particularly present in the UK. And I've been trying to think kind of creatively about this in terms of how can we as teams and organizations and a wider ecosystem be even better at this. Now, there are already initiatives happening at a sector-wide level. I'm thinking, for example, of Cymex in the UK. I'm thinking of CMORG. I'm thinking of work that's happening in the US and in other places. Those are just a couple of initiatives that come to mind. But I'm trying to think as well about what can we do at an individual practitioner level and also extending that out into our wider teams and our wider organizations. And I was thinking about who's really good at responding under pressure, who's really good at applying domain knowledge and expertise, even when the stakes are really, really high. And it struck me that the people who are really, really good at doing that are first responders or people like ER doctors. So I went off and I tried to find some insight coming from how those people train themselves to be really good to respond under pressure. What is it that they do differently? How do they think about this? How do they practice? And there's some really, really powerful insights coming from people who do that as a profession that I think we can learn from. I'll post the links to some of the material that I found. It's worth reading, having a look at. And a few of the things that jumped out at me are this notion of sang-froid, right? It's a French word that literally translates as being cold-blooded, but what it really means in this context is having a level head. Being able to think clearly, speak clearly, give clear direction, even when there is chaos all around us. And it's a learnable skill, right? Now, like everything, there are probably people who are naturally better able to develop it, but we all can. We can all get better at it. And it comes from practicing under situations of stress, but in a controlled way. So for operational resilience, we're being asked to look at extreme scenarios of disruption. And what I learned from reading about ER doctors is that they don't train by going straight in the deep end. They don't learn to get good at managing their stress by going straight in for the toughest challenges. They start off with lower impact and they build it up, right? They think about it in terms of a wedge shape. Start with something narrow that you can literally wrap your arms around and gradually build it up until you have the thick end of the wedge. And they talk about applying graduated pressure. So start with something where controlled environment, low impact, relatively low uncertainty, enough stress for it to be a test, but not so much stress that it scares the hell out of people. And as people's confidence builds up, make it harder and exercise it like a muscle, right? Don't go in straight away trying to do an ultra endurance marathon. You start off by a gentle jog. Now, what I'm seeing in the industry is that there are two ends of the spectrum, and the two ends of the spectrum are testing for destruction. Don't do that. Never a good idea. And the other end is don't test at all. Also not a good idea. Somewhere in the middle, right? So start gently and build it up and bring people with you so that it's a capability that is shared by a group of people who in a situation of disruption know who's going to be doing what, who they can count on, what the reflexes are, who's good at certain things in a situation of stress, because we're not equally equipped in normal steady state operations to be super high performing. Some people are amazing under pressure, some people less so. And it's a real question of identifying, while we're training and practicing, who are the people in the situations of duress who are great, and who are the people who might need to take a back seat in those situations. And it could be that you end up with a different chain of command for situations of disruption. All of that is something that is important to practice up front. Think about it, get into it, start working it out. Now, I'm sure everybody has already plans around business continuity and disaster recovery. Now is a really, really good time to bring those out and see, would they stack up if there was extreme disruption? And, you know, like everything under operational resilience, it's work in progress. It's something that where the expectation is that we continually get better. So, like I say, I will post the links to the material that I found related to ER doctors and how they train and practice, but it's really interesting and I hope it's helpful.